people are like, that's your passion. You love to sit in a stand all day and maybe not even see anything. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Absolutely. Oh, you got the dream job. It is the dream job because that's your passion and you love to do it. But it's also a lot of work. There's guys that I know who don't have social media and are some of the best hunters out there because they don't got time for it because they're hunting. They're doing what they love. Honestly, I would say that taking somebody else hunting is more fun than actually going hunting for myself. And he always tries to help me remember that. He says, you're always on the hunt. If you're just thinking about deer in your bed before you go to bed, it's all part of the hunt. This is Collin Cottrell, and you're listening to The Wild Initiative.
Put down your latte and pull on your boots.
There's a lot of people that can pull the trigger on an animal, but they don't know what to do with it after.
If you would have told me that a stupid turkey was going to make me get that excited, I'd have told you were crazy.
It's just a skill that you have to perfect over a lot of years.
Hunting is a tribal activity. We've lost the tribe. We can't even hunt together anymore.
Well, the people that are anti-hunting are usually pro-abortion. So kill the people, save the animals.
I just remember riding my horse back to camp with the northern lights and the moose behind me, and I'm like, this is why I've done this. This is as cool as an experience as I will get.
Hi, this is Jim Shockey.
This is Sam Soholt, the public land bus guy.
Hi, I'm Kimmy Greentree.
Hi, this is South Cox with the Western Bowhunter Podcast.
Hey, this is Ben Dedamonte, a.k.a. Shed Crazy.
You're listening to The Wild Initiative.
All right, y'all, welcome to the first episode of 2020 of The Wild Initiative, y'all. Hope you had a happy new year. Hope you all have recovered from your New Year's Eve parties by now. I went to bed by well before 10 o'clock because I had a 6 a.m. call on the first. But hope you all are enjoying your 2020 and really getting after it. Y'all, today I am talking with a good buddy of mine. He's been a listener to the podcast for a while, and we've just been kind of chatting on and off for a while. Collin Cottrell. Collin, thanks so much for hopping on for this very first episode of 2020. So no pressure, man. You gotta sound really super smart and interesting on this episode.
I'll do my best, Sam. Thanks a bunch, man, for inviting me to come on the show. No, I'm gonna do my best. I'll give it all I got. I'll put my best foot forward and see what I can do.
You're already just screwing it up here, man. What is this? What is?
Maybe I'll make a few podcast listeners come on over and check out my podcast. No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
There we go.
Kidding.
No, man, I was thinking about it, right, literally before I asked you to come on. I was like, who haven't I had on? Like, I wanted to bring someone on that just, I know for this first episode and that I think would be interesting. And I was just like, I feel like I'm overlooking someone. And I'm like, I haven't had Collin on. Like, I've been talking to this guy forever. And how have I never asked you on? So I'm super glad to have you on.
Yeah.
You know how I like to start these out. Why don't you tell me really just a little bit about your background, how you got your start in hunting, fishing, the outdoors, the whole shebang?
Yeah, man. No, it kind of goes way back, actually, when I was like 3 years old. My start in hunting was from my dad. And so I was born and raised in central Minnesota and in the Northwoods of Minnesota, actually. And kind of what we did is the weekends there was 2 weekends of deer season. And there was 2 weekends. And basically it was like the Orange Army comes out and invades the woods. So we would go up to what we called the big woods. And my dad would take me up there with him when I was super young. And I remember this full bright orange suit. And we were up in the woods and Dad would help me up into the deer stand and he'd be up there with his rifle and we'd be, sitting there. It was cold as could be. He'd be handing me like snacks and all these kinds of things to kind of keep my attention and keep me awake and ready. But I always ended up falling asleep and saying, Dad, I'm going to walk back to the car. So I literally would walk through the woods by myself and go back to the car and jump in the car and go to sleep. And he'd be still sitting out there trying to hunt. But that was kind of my intro to hunting, man. It was really just it was my family heritage. I mean, it goes way, way back. My uncles, my grandpa, my great grandpa, everybody in my family hunted. It was in our blood from the start, and it was a way of life. It was a way to put food on the table, but then it was a way to enjoy nature and the outdoors. So it kind of that's where it started, and from there it's just grown. As as being a hunter yourself, it just grows, and as you get more involved and you do more and you meet more people out there that are like-minded and love to hunt like you do, it just grows. That passion grows, and then there's this element where you try to become a better hunter, and that really continues that growth forward. So that's kind of my start in hunting. I don't know if you want to know more about my start in the hunting industry as well. That's something we could talk about at some point as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's just funny, that's the one thing. Every time I've sat in a tree stand, though, the one thing I think about is I'm freezing cold. I'm miserable. I want to fall asleep and I can't do anything about it. Albeit I will always harness in because I've taken way too many tree stand naps in really sketchy, super sketchy tree stands I don't care if it's the nicest, most Cadillac of tree stands you have. I will always strap in because I will be the one dude that finds a way to fall out of I'd probably find a way to fall out of a dang platform blind somehow. But that's just, it's the one thing. It's like it's a different skill being in a tree stand. I've said it a million times, and it's so different. You go hunting during the winter in Montana. Yeah, you're going to be cold, miserable, and tired, but
oh yeah,
it's a very different cold, miserable, and tired than having to sit stock still in a metal on a metal grate for a while. So
Exactly. And man, it's a mental game actually, and back then, and I'll be honest, back then it was 2x4s built into this big platform stand. It wasn't super high up or anything like that. So it was pretty safe, but, so that helped a little bit. And I think it was probably carpeted in there too on the little platform, to be honest.
Shoot,
but,
man.
So that helps a little bit, but nowadays, I'm a bow hunter through and through, and that's pretty much all I do now. And sitting up in a tree in Kansas for 12 straight days from dawn to dusk is it's a challenge. It's cold, it's miserable, it's a mental game, but I love it. It's my passion. People are like, that's your passion? You love to sit in a stand all day and maybe not even see anything? Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. It's crazy.
I don't know about that, man. I don't know about all that, but so talking about we kind of talked. You were talking about getting your start in the hunting industry. So what brings you to where you're at now?
Yeah. So there was a supplement company way back in the day. There's several of them now, as you know, but there was a supplement, the original supplement company way back. It was about 2006. I was a freshman in college, and my uncle actually helped co-found that supplement company with somebody who's still involved with that supplement company, the other co-founder, and they were from my hometown. So I went off to college. I was in tech college, and I was going to school for like design and marketing. And, they were like, hey, we need some help with some design and marketing and everything else in the office. So I was like, all right, cool. Can I get a job? And they're like, yeah, we want to hire you. Let's go. So I ended up sitting in an office for a summer, pick, pack, and shipping, jumping on calls, trying to help them build their pro staff, all kinds of stuff, man. I was doing everything you could pretty much do, just being this young college kid who wanted to try something new and I ended up figuring out that I could like do something in the hunting industry and I could make this a career. So kind of from there, it sprung forward into me starting my own design company. And then, it was Facebook was just getting started. Then you actually had to have a college email to have Facebook back then. You probably remember those days.
Oh yeah. I've had my Facebook. I think we were like in the third group of colleges to be added to Facebook. So I remember that was like a big thing. And then I was like, oh, screw this. I'm going over to this MySpace thing. That lasted.
Oh, good old MySpace, man. Oh, Tom, man, he's still one of my good friends. That's a joke. I hope you get it.
So just to let everyone know, you can go back, and if you can remember your login and password, you can still log into your MySpace, and they still have all your old photos that were listed.
Wow.
there's a lifetime. I don't even want
to look back at that.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad. You can still see like your, what was it? Like your top 8 friends.
Oh man.
And you can still see all your old photos. They're all a mess. They're all like jumbled up and out of order. There's no albums or anything, but all your photos are still up there. There is a lifetime of Throwback Thursday gold on my, and the best part is you can connect it and you can now log into MySpace using your Facebook account.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Well, I'm not going to ever go back and check into that. I promise you. I hope it's honestly not there, because I would be so embarrassed to go back and look at that.
I was blown away that I managed to remember the password I used for my MySpace, because I still have the same email address. I've had like the same email for Gmail address for decades at this point. But man, it was very interesting. But I digress. Sorry. So before I rudely interrupted you about MySpace and Facebook, you were telling me about getting into the industry, working for this company, and Facebook. We were getting into it.
Yeah. So back to MySpace. No, I'm just kidding. No, so I just found out that I had a passion, for doing design work, marketing work in the hunting space. I ended up getting a chance to go to I was 19 years old at the time, and my eyes were just this big. I went to the ATA show, and everybody that I saw on hunting TV was there, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I'm seeing all these different people, being this young guy who's trying to be a marketing professional, and I was learning so much. So from there, I ended up kind of building a career in the hunting space. I ended up, doing some marketing for different agencies, and then I ended up starting my own agency at one point. And now I pretty much just freelance, do a lot of that. But yeah, that was kind of my start into the hunting space, and how I have built such a network of people and know so many different people. It's kind of crazy to look back over those years. I mean, it's going to be my 14th year in the industry this year, and I can't believe that, but it's cool, man. It's really interesting. But it just my passion for hunting is really what drove that. And now, because I've been a professional in the industry, it continues to drive that passion to just represent hunting as a whole even better. So I think that's a really cool thing.
So how do you feel? This may be a weird question, but I've talked with a few folks, that podcast or are in the industry. How do you feel? One, I guess, do you feel it affects your actual time out in the woods positively or negatively? Like, how does being in the industry affect your time spent hunting?
That's actually a really great question, because it does definitely affect your time in the woods. I mean, obviously it depends what area you're involved in the industry. Being a marketer, being a digital communicator type person, it just depends. But as a marketing guy, a lot of times we're getting ready for trade show season in the fall. So, a lot of that work is being done during that time. So it does kind of cut into it a little bit, and it did in the past, but now I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to go a different route. So that way it doesn't cut into it, and you try to, as you mature and you get a little older, you try to figure out ways to do things in a better way so you don't cut into that hunting time. But, on the other side of it, now I've got a family, I'm married with kids, and that really cuts into the hunting time for good reason, of course. But my wife has been very good about, saying, hey, it's the weekend. You need to get out there and get in the woods and do your thing. She sees what I'm like when I come back, how refreshed I am, how it kind of calms my spirit, and it really helps me throughout the week. So, there's a couple sides to it, but I'd say definitely it does cut into it being in the industry. So.
It's funny. It has its positives and negatives. To some extent, any job is going to cut into, obviously, your time hunting. So it's just the fact of the matter, but being quote unquote in the industry, there's times where, depending on who you're working with, like you said, sometimes if I'm working with a smaller brand, like when I'm designing websites, if I'm working with an influencer or something like that, it's great because they want to get everything done right before or right after hunting season, because they're going to be out too. they're not wanting to be working in the middle of all this stuff.
Yeah.
But then with a lot of the companies that you work with, they're all this time I want to be, spend prepping for my hunts or time outdoors. That's going to be their busy season because they're trying to sell stuff to people that are going on their hunts. And so
exactly.
And then of course, I've talked with Cody Rich about it a lot. We've talked about it where it's like, sometimes it feels like either you spend time hunting or you podcast about hunting because especially like, when you're podcasting at any given time, you're editing one episode, you're recording the following week's episode, and then you're searching for guests for the even following week's episodes after that.
Yeah.
And so, you're at any given time, effectively like 3-4 needing to be 3-4 weeks ahead. You're always planning. It's a constant thing. It's kind of crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, and that, I guess that's just the day and age of digital communication as well. It's, it's not as easy as you think. I mean, it's a lot of ongoing, content and posting on social media and podcasting and being a guest on a podcast and then a lot of these people, they have either a regular job within the industry or outside the industry, or they, consult with somebody within the industry, those kinds of things. I mean, you're well aware it's kind of the same way for you. So, it's like an ongoing battle of always working on this or that, whether it's, your marketing work or your work, your job work, or your digital communication work for you're building your own brand or your own podcast or whatever you're doing. So it's nonstop, man. It's crazy, but it's kind of fun too. I had to step back from it for a couple of years personally, just because it was a lot of time. And then when I got married and had my first child, it was like, man, I can't juggle all this right now. I need to focus on my marriage, focus on my children, and then I'll step back into it. So that's kind of where I've been the last year, is kind of stepping back into the industry, kind of getting ready to, I'm getting ready to go out to the ATA show now, and I won't be at SHOT Show this year, but I went to the ATA show for like 11 straight years and then took a couple years off. So I'm excited to get back and start working more in the industry again. It's something I really love. It's the passion, man.
Well, I'm a firm believer in people need to do what they're passionate about. Look at their skills, find a way to take what you're good at and relate it to what you're passionate about. And for guys like us, it's not always initially obvious where you're like, I'm like a digital media guy but I love to go hunting. And you're like looking at these two things and you're like, how do I reconcile like this whole digital media thing with being out in the woods with no connection? It's difficult initially, but you think about it and it's like, okay. And you find ways to work it together and really do what you're good at, apply that to what you're passionate about, and find out how to make money and support yourself in that fashion.
Exactly.
And I get it, not everyone can work in the hunting industry. Not everyone that hunts can, but it's, if you can find a way, it's a cool thing, man. It's, solely from the perspective of being able to make money doing what you're passionate about. And not everyone's going to be Remy Warren or someone that can go out and literally make money by hunting.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to find little tertiary ways to do it, but
Yeah. Well, it's cool because I've hunted with some outfitters in the past, I was a freelance camera guy for a while, and we went and hunted with some outfitters and different things. And those guys are so passionate about what they do, man. They love it. Every day they get to go hunting. Every day they get to guide different people, on these different animals, wherever they're at. And they just love it. They get up at 4:00 in the morning. They love drinking their coffee every morning, getting up, they love the grind of hunting season. It's crazy. And for me, I do a little bit of guiding here and there, but it's here in Texas. Like, it's it's a lot more relaxed than some of these Western guides. It's crazy, but they love it, and they've turned their passion, kind of like Remy. He's an outfitter, as well as doing the TV media, digital media stuff, and he's turned his passion for hunting into an outfitting business, and then on the digital side as well. So, another thing about it too is people think like, oh, you're a professional hunter, you're in the hunting industry, you got the dream job. It is the dream job because that's your passion and you love to do it, but it's also a lot of work. It's not easy by any means just because you're, in the hunting industry and you're a hunter.
Mm-hmm. Well, and, everyone, it's just, the whole thing's funny because everyone there's assumptions made when you have any sort of brand that relates to the hunting industry. Because, you saw it as of, I guess, yesterday, as of the time we're recording now, but like, people get so butthurt when you get any sort of notoriety in the hunting industry. And they're like, oh, unless you're filling every tag, unless you are ultimately successful and all you do is kill, nobody should know you in the hunting industry. Because you're a worthless piece of crap. I'm like, whoa there, Sparky, calm down. People can have messages,
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And that's, you and I were obviously going back and forth on Instagram, messaging each other. This person was, getting on you about something. And it's kind of funny. I mean, if you're sitting there on Instagram, commenting negative crap on people's, profiles or whatever, how do you even have time for that if you're, you know what I mean? I don't get how people have time to do that, to be negative and comment on other people's stuff, negative stuff. It blows my mind, honestly, because I would never go to somebody else's profile and type something negative just because I want to type something negative. I mean, yeah, I get it. Maybe they have their opinion and their feelings, but, I don't know, voice that opinion on your profile. Why would you go to somebody else's profile and voice that opinion? I guess it doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I look at a lot of profiles and I think, well, you're a dumbass. I'm not saying like, I don't think a lot of these people are stupid or full of crap, whatever it is, but I'm not going to be a slave to my need to go out and, because this person we were talking about, it's probably somebody that I've blocked because they're a dick, or maybe they're not, but maybe I haven't, and they just don't want me to call out their actual profile online. But they clearly went and took the time to create a profile to then go talk crap about me on somebody else's post, who is actually, funny enough, I didn't do this intentionally, but you see the shirt I'm wearing right now?
Yep, the Shed Crazy.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Shed Crazy shirt. This was not intentional that we're talking about it, and I'm wearing the shirt now. But it was on Ben's Ben's profile, on Shed Crazy's profile, and he's a good friend of mine.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
What? The whole thing's hilarious, but I'm like, here's the deal. One, if you have time to put out that much effort talking crap about people, like, you can't be that good of a hunter because you can't be spending that much time in the woods. Once again,
all the really good hunters I know are not wasting their time commenting on other people's profiles on social media. They're out scouting or hunting or thinking about, whatever, trying to figure out a new property, whatever. They're spending time actually doing stuff like that. I mean, there's guys that I know who don't have social media and are some of the best hunters out there because they don't got time for it because they're hunting. They're doing what they love, So, man, it's real annoying. It makes no sense. I mean, and like you, kind of like what you talked about, you're just somebody who's sharing your story. You're sharing your ups and your downs. You're sharing your journey, really. And I think that's what's so fun about, obviously being a digital marketing guy. That's what's so fun about social media is you can share that journey. You can share from when you weren't a very good hunter or you didn't even hunt and kind of come up through and share that journey all the way through. Now, where the issue might be sometimes, I guess, is people might try to portray that they're this big bad hunter when they've only been hunting for like a year. Now it kind of annoys me. I'm not going to go like say it to them probably, but that kind of stuff definitely annoys me. But on the other turn, hey, maybe they're going to inspire somebody else to get into hunting. And I think that's what's most important.
Well, and that's the thing right there is I think people are a lot more discerning than we give them credit for. Yes, we know that woman does not legitimately know how to hunt and probably just post provocative pictures on her Instagram so she can get free guided trips. We all get it. We're not stupid. Yes, that guy that's probably pretending to be a badass but has never posted a single grip and grin in his life is probably not the badass he is portraying himself to be. Again, we get it. But here's the thing, like, I don't sit and dwell all day on that. It does not, that person does not have enough power has zero power over me.
Yeah.
All of these people that get so uptight about it and so worked up, how much power does that person have over them that they have to put out the effort to go create a different profile and go comment and find ways to hunt out? Because whoever this person is, he's not following me, but he clearly has to go find some way to seek out my profile to talk crap. Like, the whole thing is,
yeah.
Well, like, you're good buddies with Ryan, and that whole message about regaining your sovereignty as a man, and not letting others have power over you in that way, not granting them power over you. And that is like the least manly thing to me in my mind, is granting someone that much power over you. And I catch myself sometimes, like, I'll catch myself where I'll get really frustrated with someone and I'll start dwelling on it. But then I stop and I think, I'm like, how much power am I giving this person over me, over my positivity, over when I could be I'm sitting here stewing when I could be going and doing something productive, or shooting my bow, or, building a website, or whatever it happens to be. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So, speaking of Ryan, you got to take him out on his very first hunt. And
yeah, man,
he shared his part of the story on the podcast. But I'd love to hear some of that from your perspective, and kind of like, I guess, how you found out about him, because getting people to hunt that haven't, that's such a huge thing for this podcast, and for that I'm passionate about, just because of my background. How did that whole thing go down? How'd you learn about him, and then how'd you get him to come hunting with you?
Yeah. I forced him into it, actually. No, I actually heard about Ryan. I think somebody tagged me in a post that he put out on Facebook. I mean, this was literally at his start. This was like 3.5 years ago, I think. It was, he'd only been like 6 or 8 months in, I think. And somebody tagged me in a post on his social media, or his Facebook group or something like that, or invited me to it. And I ended up starting to see this post, and I was like, man, this guy's pretty good. And I said, hey man, I'd like to connect with you. You seem like a really good guy. I've done a lot of work in the hunting industry. I've done a lot of marketing work, just the natural communicator and connector in me kind of came out, and I just wanted to connect with this guy. So, I could see he was a good guy, and he was doing something really cool with Order of Man and the Iron Council. So from there, I ended up kind of emailing back and forth with him. I think I lined him up with a podcast guest, actually. One of my clients and one of my friends is Ted Nugent. So he wanted to get Ted Nugent on his podcast really bad. And so I think I ended up lining that out for him and connecting him with Toby, Ted's son. That might have been after, though, actually. So maybe back up. I think it was because he wanted to go to SHOT Show. Now, if I remember it correctly. Yeah, I think that's what it was. He wanted to go to SHOT Show. He had commented on there someplace like, hey, does anybody know how I can get into the SHOT Show? And, the SHOT Show is something where you kind of have to be like pretty much a member of the industry to get, to go into it. So I said, hey man, I can get you I have a friend who can get us in. I go every year. Let's go. Let's meet up. Let's get a hotel room together and hang out and have a good time. So that's what we actually ended up doing. We had never met each other before. We've only emailed back and forth. And I think I started following on Facebook or something like that. But we ended up going out to Vegas, meeting each other out there, and he was from Utah, so he drove to Vegas. He was only a few hours away from there, and we met up and ended up hitting it off really well and having a good time, and just hung out for 3 days. And I knew a ton of people in the hunting industry, and I was meeting people and connecting. I connected him to Cameron Haynes. I connected him with several different people out there. So it was just really cool. I think he could see that I was a connector and he was a connector, and we both had a lot in common, and we were both on this path of becoming better men. Obviously he was a little bit ahead of me on that at that time. So, cause I was listening to his podcast, trying to become a better man at that time. I'm always trying to become a better man, obviously, but I was just in this phase where being married and having my first child, I really was listening to what he was saying and really taking a lot in for it. But kind of from there, I guess, to get into the hunting part, after that, we stayed in contact, and this was, SHOT Shows in the end of January. So this was several months down the road. He had kind of started talking about, potentially learn how to shoot a bow. He really liked what Cameron Haynes was putting out on social media. So he was telling me, like, man, that Cameron Haynes guy, he's pretty awesome. He's really inspiring. And I was like, yeah, you should pick up a bow like him, So he ended up going to his bow shop and picking up a bow. And I saw this and I was like, man, this is awesome. And he started shooting. I was like, well, you got to come out on your first hunt. You're going to come out to Texas. I've got a buddy, one of my friends here in Texas is a outfitter. His name's Clay, which Ryan obviously mentioned that as well, Clay Herzog. And Clay was like, dude, they call it, cull bucks here in Texas. So they've got all these different management practices that are kind of different from the Midwest or out West. But, and some of these ranches, he wanted to get some of these younger bucks that were, not very good genetics off the ranch. So as part of that, he was like, hey man, I want you to come out and hunt. And if you want to invite some people to come out, he's like, you can do that. So I thought right away, I was like, man, I got to get Ryan out here. This would be his first hunt. This would be a perfect opportunity. It'd be a little bit of an easier hunt for him, not like a Western style hunt, more of like a, deer coming in, feeding, and a lot easier shot out of a ground blind. So that's kind of what we did. And he flew out here and it was awesome. It was just awesome to see his excitement, before the hunt. And, we took some time. I really took some time with him before the hunt, and we talked about, what hunting is all about, the feelings, everything that it involves. I wanted to, nobody's ever prepared or ready, I think, for that first hunt, but I kind of wanted to see where he was at emotionally, mentally, and then physically as well with his shot and different things like that. So we kind of walked through his progression and his shooting and different things like that. And, he had done pretty good for only picking up a bow, like I think 4 or 5 months before that. He had practiced a lot. He had done really well. He had a couple, as bow hunters do, they pick up a few, when they don't have somebody teaching them the form and stuff and they're trying to learn on their own, they pick up a few mistakes and bad habits and stuff like that. So I kind of helped him with that. And not that I'm John Dudley or anything like that, but, I tried to help him with what I knew. And yeah, we basically, he said he wanted to shoot it with his rifle first. So he had, him being a military guy and having a lot more experience shooting a rifle, that first morning we went out there and he ended up shooting his first buck and first deer with the rifle. And it was such an amazing experience. Honestly, I would say that taking somebody else hunting is more fun than actually going hunting for myself. And I'm a very passionate, hunter. So for me to say that, I think is pretty crazy, but it was just amazing. It was the look in his eyes, I could just, his breathing when he was going to take the shot, his breathing and his expression after the shot, everything about it I just loved. And it's really given me this, since then it's given me this passion to reach out to people and try to take new hunters and try to be more involved with that initiative, kind of like what you talked about. And but from there it was kind of my turn to hunt, so we switched off and I ended up taking a doe with my bow, and maybe it was a buck, I don't remember. I think it might have been a buck. I took a buck with my bow, and then he wanted to hunt the next day, and I was like, all right, do you want to use your bow? And he's like, yeah, man, I think I'm ready. I'm good to go. And we went out there, and we ended up he ended up taking another buck with his bow. And he put a little bit of a bad shot on it. I'll be honest about that. It was a little bit back, but that's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. That's part of the hunt. And we ended up, it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. We ended up finally tracking that deer and finding it and finishing it off. And I think we got up to it and cut its throat or whatever, but that's what you have to do. We're as passionate hunters. We don't want to see that animal suffer any longer. And we went through with it. And that was really, honestly, a good learning lesson for Ryan. I think that was something where him being a first-time hunter and a new hunter, he had those emotions of, man, what if I don't find this animal? What if I shot this animal and I didn't kill it, or it suffered, or this or that, and those kinds of things if you hunt long enough, it happens to all of us. But for him to have that happen to him on that first hunt, I think it was actually a really good thing. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to see an animal suffer or anything like that. But for him personally, it really helped him understand what he's doing and how much he needs to put into his practice, and how much he needs to, he needs to show the utmost respect for that animal. So he needs to prepare himself the best he can. Not saying he didn't prepare himself, but just gives you that drive to prepare even better the next time around. So that's kind of what happened. And I ended up shooting another deer after that. And so we went home with a lot of meat in our freezer, and just had a great time, a lot of great memories. And one of the things I want to mention about that hunt, that I know you're reading Ryan's book right now, correct?
Yeah, I'm almost finished.
You've been reading through. So did you read the chapter about where he talks about going on the hunt and he got sick on the hunt? I don't know if you remember that or not.
It sounds familiar, but I can't remember if it's because I read it or I talked with him about it. But
yeah. So anyway, that was on our hunt. That was on his first hunt when that happened. And so one night we ate some steak. I don't know if the steak ended up being bad or something. And we ended up both waking up.
I think I just read this part. Cause yeah, he was talking about like stuff's going to go wrong and you have to plan for stuff to go wrong regardless of how good everything else is. I remember. Yeah. I literally just read this, I think yesterday.
Yeah. So that was on our hunt, and we both ended up waking up. So the next morning we were supposed to head out, and I was dropping him off at the airport so he could catch his flight and get back home. And I was driving, like a 4.5 hour, 5 hour drive back home as well. And we're both he woke up like 3 a.m, just puking and sick. And I was just like, oh no, man. And all of a sudden my stomach started to hurt, and I'm like, oh no. So we were both just puking and sick and just like, we were out of it, man. It was crazy, but no, it was fun, man. It was just two brothers that, really just hit it off and had a good time. And really, I got to show him my passion for hunting. I got to be the teacher for him and kind of show him, the ins and outs. And then from there, he got to take that, and it's become his own passion. And that guy, I mean, every time I talk to him now, he's like, yeah, I've been shooting, I've been practicing this and that. I'm learning, I'm going on more hunts. Hey, when can I come out to Texas? Let's do another hunt, So, he's the busy guy, as you know. So so for him to do what he's doing, man, it's cool to see the passion. And ultimately it's really cool because he's affecting a lot of people. I mean, he's introducing a lot of people to hunting that somebody like you or like me, who's been a hunter my whole life, can't connect in the same way because I was born with it, where somebody like him, he wasn't born with hunting. He didn't have really a dad or an uncle that really showed him how to do it. So he can kind of explain as that adult hunter who's come into it now, and he can share in a way that I just can't. And I love it, man. I tell him every time that I see he's on a new podcast or he's putting up a new hunting post or something like that, I said, man, keep spreading the word. I really appreciate it. Because I do really appreciate it. It's really important.
It's we all talk about, bringing new people into hunting. And I feel like a lot of the time people feel like it needs to be this grand gesture. You need to do this thing that's going to bring, 20 people, to start hunting. But it's amazing the exponential effect. And yeah, not every person you bring into hunting is going to be a Ryan Michler or a Joe Rogan or somebody with this giant platform. But even if, you introduce one person into hunting and over their time hunting, they bring in 2 or 3 more people, and all of those people, I mean, it's an exponential thing. And you focus on introducing someone, every year, or even if it's not that often, you have no idea where it can go. And exactly. You never know if that person is going to be the next Ryan Michler, Joe Rogan, or, who else with this giant platform that's going to reach out to people that would otherwise never be interested or introduced to hunting.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really important. And as you know, I mean, we've had a decline in hunters over the past, 10 years or so. I think it's been since 2011 or 12, we've had that decline rapidly. And now I think it's starting to come back, and thank God it's for people like Joe Rogan, the platform that he has, and even guys like Ryan Michler. I mean, the platform he has, I mean, it's really starting to bring that message about hunting, and it's not just these bloodthirsty killers. There's so much more to it. And these guys are really telling that story in a way that, like I said, a guy like me, I can tell the story, but it doesn't have the same effect like those guys. So it's cool, man. I love it. I love seeing that, and like I said, it's become a passion of mine now to take other hunters. And I'll say, like you said, you don't have to just take 20 people, or you don't have to even take somebody every week or every year or whatever. Take people as much as you can, introduce them, start them slow, just get them out in the woods walking around, showing them what deer sign is or showing them what elk sign is. It doesn't have to be this where you throw a gun or a bow in their hand right away and you're trying to, take them up the mountain and put them on an animal right away. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be as small and simple as, just showing them different things, how a trail system works, how animals, where they sleep, where they bed, where they eat, different things like that. It's simple things like that we really need to kind of just get them started with, and then let that passion grow.
That's the thing. We also think like, okay, to introduce someone into hunting, that means I have to find someone that's never touched a rifle before and then suddenly take them on their first hunt. It's like, no, there's a lot of crap that goes in between that.
Yes,
it's we focus so much on the end result of taking someone on this big hunt, or even if it's not a big hunt, even if it's a simple hunt, we focus on that end result way too much. And we don't focus enough on those small things. Like you said, whether it's taking them for a hike if they're not used to being in the wilderness, making a wild game meal for them, like introducing them to the concept of eating wild game. I think so many people have been introduced, or at least understand more about it, or had their interest piqued after they've had, make sure it's a good wild game meal. Make sure you're not a crappy cook, but look up some good recipes, some simple stuff to make that'll taste good, and share with them. Be like, hey man, come over for dinner. I got this buck. Maybe stick with something that's a little more mentally accessible for people. Maybe don't throw
or just don't tell them. Just don't tell them what it is. Just tell them this
that
is
also
wild
works.
Game.
Yeah. Just after the fact, be like, yeah, that was a bear heart. And they'll never speak to you again. Sensitive people, man.
Yeah, especially bears. The bear thing, man. People, man, it's crazy. But no, you're spot on, Sam. It's simple as that. I mean, it's just even just introducing them through a meal. I mean, and maybe have them come and show you show them how you're preparing it or how you're cooking it, different things like that, like the passion that we have just for that side of it. I know I love to cook. I love to, smoke stuff. I love to cook stuff here. And my wife is like, man, how do you know how to do that? I just do it and I learn. My dad used to do it. I watched him. I start to learn. I start to look up recipes and YouTube videos. And, there's so much of that good stuff out there now with the access we have and the community we have, So, it's as simple as that, get them started, get them excited, then, kind of gradually take them through the steps. I mean, that's one of the things I didn't really, mention about Ryan is we were emailing and talking back and forth and texting back and forth quite a bit during that time. He was asking me questions all the time. What kind of gear do I need? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be hot? What's what's the terrain going to be like? Do I need boots? What kind of broadhead should I use? All these different questions, all these different things. And even those conversations that you have leading up to that time are so, so important and really help that person start to understand, the next step as you come through it. So,
I mean, here's the thing, the time you spend before the hunt with someone, making your, and again, it doesn't have to, it can be emailing back and forth. It can be messaging back and forth. But that time you make yourself accessible before you take someone out on a hunt is so much more valuable than the hunt itself.
Yes.
I mean, in all reality, like it can be someone that you may not even have to take them on the hunt.
Yeah.
But that time, you can introduce someone to hunting just by being like, hey, this Onyx thing, here's how you use it. Here's how you can do e-scouting on Google Maps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, you want to do this type of hunt? Make sure you invest in boots and a pack. Mm-hmm. Oh, you want to do this other type of hunt? Just buy any decent pair of boots that don't hurt your feet. But you're going to need a good set of this, or,
mm-hmm.
this explaining stuff, helping them kind of get over that hurdle of getting into hunting. That's what's more valuable than anything else. Yeah, it's awesome if then you get to kind of, I guess, reap what you've sown and get to take them on that hunt and help them harvest their first animal. But that may not always be the case.
Yeah.
They may be completely on the other side of the US, but make yourself available to people. I think, it's huge.
Yeah, a simple Instagram message, a simple email. That's all it started with Ryan. It was a simple me emailing him and saying, hey, man, let's go hunting. I want you to come. And then, things just went from there and it snowballed. And I love to see where he's at now. It's really exciting. And, I want to mention I have a great mentor of mine. His name's Robert Hogue. And he's the original. He's somebody who he's a pioneer in this industry. He started the first bow hunting website, which was originally on AOL. It was now it's bowhunting.net, which went on the World Wide Web in 1996 after Al Gore invented the internet, of course. But before that, I think you get that joke. You remember? Yeah,
that. I'm old enough to get the joke. But I'm curious how many listening are, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what your demographic is here, but yeah, anyway, Al Gore didn't invent the internet. I'm sorry. But before that, he was on AOL, and maybe some of the people here remember like AOL Messenger chat, different things like that. I mean, there was all this stuff before the real worldwide internet. Robert started that website, which is so cool. But one of the things he always tells me and always, wants me to remember is he says, you're on the hunt. And what he means by, so even though we're not on the hunt, like actually out in the woods, like maybe it's the middle of summer and we're scouting deer. He says, you're on the hunt. And he always tries to help me remember that. He says, you're always on the hunt. It doesn't matter if you're looking at trail cameras, if you're jumping in the truck to go scouting, if you're just thinking about deer in your bed before you go to bed, it's all part of the hunt. And we live in this world today of social media, fantasy where people are showing all their best images and their best things on social media. I do it too. I'll admit, but sometimes we have to remember to document everything, and share a little bit of everything, because even when you're just looking at trail cameras, or even just when you're out in the woods walking around, maybe thinking about where you might put a stand, that's all part of the hunt. That's all part of the experience. And we need to remember that moving forward. It's not just about showing the glam shots on the old IG,
And I get it. Some people are trying to market and make a brand and want to only show the best stuff. But I think people connect more when you're real and and you're showing all parts of the hunt, because it makes you more accessible to a wider group of people, But
yeah, it's authentic. People really start to relate with that. And honestly, it's kind of weird to say this, but that is one of my goals for 2020. That is like my New Year's resolution, is to actually be more authentic on social media, to show the dirt, to show the grime, to show a little bit of the background more. And as I kind of start to build a brand again and try to get more involved in the industry, I want to show the truth, what's going on behind the scenes, not just like the good stuff, and it's hard to do that. It's hard to put yourself out there like that sometimes. I mean, my head gets messed up sometimes just thinking about it, like, oh, what if I show this and people think this about me? And it's like, who the hell cares? You know what I mean? That's what it's all about, showing the grime, showing the dirt, and showing where you came from and where you're going,
Oh yeah. All right. So as we're winding down, I always like to kind of tie this off with, say you run into someone at a show, or, just anywhere. Maybe it's a new client that's not directly hunting related.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking to you. They're like, man, I've seen all this hunting stuff. It is so cool, and I want to do it so bad, but like, I don't have the background. I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't have friends that do it. Might be a little too much for me. What would you say to that person? What words of wisdom or encouragement would you give that person?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's a great thought, actually, because I've had to think about this just being around Ryan. Yeah. I mean, he wanted to go hunting, and I didn't know that from the start. I just asked him, but he ended up wanting to go hunting, which was cool. He could have turned me down, and then I would have probably had to coax him into it somehow. But it's one of those things. I think that the most important thing is just to get around people who hunt. Get around that community. Maybe go to the local archery shop or the local shooting range. Get around some people who are involved in hunting and maybe have been hunting for a while, and start to talk to them. Start to listen to what they have to say. Maybe just spend some time around them. Even if you have to, ask them, hey, can I just come sit with you? Or can I just walk in the woods with you? I think something like that. As we were already talking about, obviously becoming a hunter. I think that just those little things like that are going to really take them from not, maybe having the guts to go do it themselves, but it's going to kind of help them become more comfortable to be in that situation, So yeah, I think that's what I would do. I'd say, be in a community or become part of a community where people are hunters, or, they can help you understand a little bit more about it, and then you can immerse yourself into it further.
All right. So folks wanted to find you online. Where can they hunt you down? Follow along with all the new authentic Collin Cottrell.
Well, I guess my favorite place is Instagram right now. I'd love to have people connect with me on Instagram. That's Instagram.com/ or is it backwards? / yeah. @ Collin_Cottrell. So that's Collin, COLLIN _COTTRELL. You can connect with me there. And I would actually recommend people, if you have any questions or want to connect or just chat, I love to message with people. I message with people more than anything, honestly. So feel free to just drop me a message and let's connect and get to know each other.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to hop on, man. I had a great time chatting.
Yeah, you bet, Sam. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
All right, y'all, that'll do it for episode 130 of The Wild Initiative. Make sure you head on over to the show notes page at thewildinitiative.com/130. Get links to everything we talked about on today's episode. Another big thank you to Collin for hopping on with me, taking the time out of his day while the little one is sleeping. Make sure you give him a follow and reach out. All right, y'all, that is it for now. I'm looking forward to next week, but until then, I hope today's episode inspired you to get involved, get outdoors, and plan your initiative for the wild.
Thank you for listening to The Wild Initiative. Please take a moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher, and head on over to thewildinitiative.com to get show notes, check out the blog, gear discounts, other podcasts from the Wild Initiative family, and more.